All right. Hi, everybody. I am Dr. Amy Nelson, and today we're doing a little Wellness Wednesday on the things you should take with you when you travel. And this is just me getting back from our wonderful Salt Lake adventure. I went to a conference, which was really exciting, and I'll probably update you on more information from that conference because I'm learning so much and my head is spinning. So it was really a fun time. But we also went to Salt Lake, which is a great little destination. If you ever have a chance to go to Salt Lake for an adventure, go for it because it was really fun. I didn't expect it to be that fun, but it was. So I wanted to do a little Facebook Live on the things to take with you when you travel, because these are things that I travel with and have come in handy, and especially if you're traveling to a far off land and you may be in a different country, for say, you don't really want to have to go find bandages. You don't want to have to go find your usual things that you take. Because, you know, it's a different place. You don't know where to go. You don't know if the things are the same, all this kind of stuff. So these are the things that I travel with that help us kind of stay up and at 'em. Oh, excuse me. As I have some allergies. Let's start with allergies. So first off, like when you travel, if my son gets allergies really quickly, and you all probably do as well. Like, we live here in Austin, Texas, and we get exposed to a lot of pollens and things like that. So if that's kind of happening for you, you're gonna want to take your allergy stuff with you. The stuff that we take really, where is it? Hang on, here it is. The stuff that I take a ton of is this. We take D-Hist. So D-Hist is N-acetylcysteine, quercetin, stinging nettles, bromelain. So these are things that help reduce the inflammation from the histamine pathway and help us resolve our symptoms. I also travel with Benadryl, right? Because Benadryl is kind of one of your emergency medicine lines of defense for an allergic reaction. Like, say, if you all of a sudden had some allergy situation with shellfish or whatever, you're going to want Benadryl, right? I don't want to have to go hunt for Benadryl. I want it in my little kit that I take with me. And so there's seasonal allergies and there's that pathway, but then I always take Benadryl. And I think it also is wise to probably take a baby aspirin with you. You know, just some of those like key over-the-counter emergency medicine type things that, you know, if somebody's starting to have a heart attack, a lot of times it's advised to give them a baby aspirin, things like that. So keep those things with you when you're traveling. So here, D-Hist, it's in a travel pack. I usually take this because, of course, you know, you don't want to take a big bottle of something and have it be overweight at the, at the airport. So I take that. So the other thing, there is a homeopathic, I forgot to mention. So I love traveling with homeopathics, same reason. They're light, they're small. And so there is a homeopathic that we use on occasion for seasonal allergies, and it's also homeopathic apis. This also is a good bee sting type thing. It's a good, no, we're not talking allergic bee sting reactions where somebody needs their, allergic medicine, but we're saying like, a reddened area that's got, it's really tight and it's hot and it's, maybe itchy. So homeopathic apis comes in really handy. You just dissolve 3 of these in your mouth, take them like every 15 minutes. That with the Benadryl and the D-Hist, probably all of it would be fine. You'd get that person out of that crisis in a second. But I usually travel with homeopathic apis and D-Hist. So so let's move into, of course, digestion. So everybody needs digestive support when they travel. Why? Because a lot of times you're going to a new destination. There's a new set of flora that you haven't been exposed to. So I, of course, always travel with my probiotics. There's Ortho 100. This one works really, really well. And then I also love traveling with the bacillus lines. And so that's this Megaspore. So typically, like, your Megaspore biotic or your bacillus lines are going to be useful if somebody's somebody's got more of a diarrhea picture. Your Lactobacillus bifidobacter kind of high dose are going to be used if somebody's got more of a constipated picture. And that gets us into the, you know, the nature of GI. Some people get really constipated when they travel. So I always travel with this guy. This is Ortho. This is another Ortho molecular product, Super Aloe 450. So you know who you are. If you travel and you get constipated and it's been 2 days since you've had a bowel movement, it's probably time for a little bit of Cape Aloe is the active component in this one. And Ortho makes the one that has the highest amount. And so you would do like 1 or 2 of these that day when you haven't had a bowel movement. And then you know, Cape Aloe is a cathartic laxative, so it helps like irritate the lining of the system, and then it actually then will create the bowel movement. So you don't want to be impacted in a foreign country, right? So you definitely want to make sure you're drinking clean water, bottled water, but a lot of times people won't drink a lot of water when they travel, or even just the act of like, I think it just sets our rhythms off, right? So the act of driving at a long distance, we're being inactive, or in a plane ride for several hours, we're quite inactive. So Super Aloe, I don't leave home without. But if we don't have like that big kind of several days of no bowel movement crisis, you can go ahead and just travel with your magnesium. Magnesium oxide is probably my favorite. It's an osmotic laxative, so it doesn't irritate the lining. And sometimes you won't use like, say, a aloe if you've got like history of ulcer, if you're just got an ulcer, that's going to aggravate that. So what you'd want to do is use something like a magnesium. Magnesium pulls water into the bowel, and that helps you have the bowel movement. So a lot of times you can just start with magnesium. I usually do between 600 and 1200 milligrams before bed. If I'm traveling, then that helps keep things regular. If that's not working, time to use the Super Aloe Plus or the Super Aloe 450. So you can kind of, you know, go between those two. If you're managing somebody like a kid or your family members or whoever, you might want to start them out on some magnesium, you know, because some people, this is too much for them. Some people it's a lot. And if you get diarrhea from any of these, then good, you just back off the dose. So you can't take too much magnesium. It doesn't have a toxicity. The toxicity would be a loose stool. And then you'd be like, oh good, I don't need that much. So then you kind of back the magnesium down, or you stop taking it for a couple of days, and then maybe you take half the dose. So you're going to dose it for yourself, okay? So yeah, so constipation, but then on the other end of the spectrum is diarrhea, isn't it? So that would be if we got exposed to some flora, traveler's diarrhea. It would be, you know, the idea of like getting a parasite, or getting kind of like a salmonella or something like that, right? So infectious diarrhea, or diarrhea from, I don't know about you, but I kind of sometimes go off my strict diet. I mean, I shouldn't say I do a strict diet. I do a healthy diet, and it does require me to say no to a lot of standard American habits, you know, and I'm happy to do that. I'm fine. Like I love the diet that I eat. Due to poor, oh, sorry, my phone just told me it was having a hard time connecting, so I hope everybody's getting this. Luckily, at the AANP convention, this little company is called Wish Garden, and they had this thing called cramp bark, and I went down to their booth, and I got all the cramp bark I could have. And so it was, yeah, it actually helped me. It helped me a ton. Like I had such bad abdominal pain. I was like, is this an ER visit? It was like that, you know? And I just, you know, I can't handle gluten, and I know it. So I went ahead and yeah, I got a bunch of cramp bark. Now, the other thing I travel with, if you're like celiac or if you have a dairy problem, you're going to travel with that enzyme DPP4, and that's in the products Gluten Ease and, you know, intolerance complex. So I don't have that sitting here, but I always travel with those enzymes as well. So a bunch of those enzymes. And then this cramp bark was awesome. And it's meant for like women who have menstrual cramps, but it also really helped me with that abdominal pain. So I won't leave home without this again either, because that was such a poor decision and it got me out of trouble. So it was actually really great. Diarrhea also, so back to like traveler's diarrhea, you're gonna also travel with activated charcoal. I don't have that sitting here because remember, activated charcoal is the thing that binds up the endotoxins from something like salmonella. So when you get food poisoning, that's what you're feeling, is the endotoxin from that like complete infectious diarrhea. So infectious diarrhea, where you got exposed to something like that, yeah, you want a bunch of activated charcoal. And then this guy too, oh, I like this. This is Z binder, and it is just, here's activated charcoal in it, but there's like zeolite clay, there's shilajit, and then there's fulvic acids. So these like bentonite clays and things that I just listed, they are there for kind of binding up those endotoxins to solidify the bowel movement. And that is like really important to stay on top of, because like diarrhea goes for too long and you need an IV, you know, and that is gonna not be fun to do in a foreign country, right? So you kind of like, I would not leave the country with this stuff, without this stuff, like, because it would really help. It would just save your heartache, right? So that's important to do. Okay, so take your inflammatory digestive enzymes, take something for diarrhea, take something for constipation. And then, you know what? Abdominal stuff. Like the two that I probably have used when I've been traveling before, there's two homeopathics for vomiting. One is Nux vomica and the other one is arsenicum. And I have used both of these. I've gotten sick before, like when I've gone to visit my family. You know how it is, like you're getting involved in some new like exposure to a flu or something like that. So you might have that too when you travel. It's like, oh, you know, we get the flu and it's not fair. It's really like, come on, you should be having fun. But sometimes you just get exposed to that. And then, so yeah, those two things kind of help you on out. So the other category I wrote down is pain, right? So we're hiking and we move more than we usually do. Maybe we hurt our back, hurt our leg, hurt our ankle, whatever. So you guys know I love that quercetin dihydrate. That's in this repair guard. And so quercetin dihydrate is a proteolytic enzyme that reduces the prostaglandin signaling. That's the signaling that gives you all those problems, right? Then it also improves tissue turnover. So we use a lot of quercetin dihydrate as alternative pain management. When I had my appendix out, oh my God, they offered up so many pain meds and I was not comfortable with any of those. I was like, those are like addictive pain meds and I don't want that. I mean, I don't put that in my world. So I just, you know, I took quercetin dihydrate, high dose, and I took arnica. And then I had in my ethers like an extra strength Tylenol. That was recovering from a surgery, you know? So I like the idea of blocking pain for sure, but I think some of us want to be very careful when we're offered up those like very, very addictive pain medications. And I just couldn't believe that I was being offered these like opioids. And I was like, no, thanks. No, I will not do that. I'm good. I will be in pain and I will heal from pain. But I wasn't. I actually felt really good on the protocol that I put in place. And that was my experience. That's what happened. Now, I travel with Repair Guard because it's one little tablet is 1,000 milligrams of quercetin dihydrate. And here you can take up to 12 of these in a day, you know? So that helps a lot if you, this is also getting into the histamine pathway because we also saw quercetin in that D-Hist product. And so what we do is high dose quercetin for clearing the histamine pathway, but we also use it for pain management. So I use that. And remember, you could take your favorites too. You could take some acetaminophen, you could take some ibuprofen, we already mentioned the aspirin to take. So yeah, you can take those as well. That's a smart move. You know, there's nothing against pharmaceuticals. I think, remember, you want to be prepared because you don't want to have to go out into a foreign country to try to find these things. You just want them in your bag. Okay. yeah, so, oh, and that gets me to bandages. I travel with all the bandages. So I don't have them here, but every size. I travel with like a little roll of Coban, or it's like that stretchy kind of, it's not an adhesive, but it kind of, it's vet wrap first. I think it was developed by veterinarians so that you didn't have to use tape for a bandage. So you'll find it at Walgreens. It's usually coming in sizes now that are big or more narrow. So, that said, know how to bandage a wound. I mean, that's just a nice basic human skill. So I travel with all the different sizes of bandages. I travel with the scissors. I travel with the tweezers. I travel with betadine surgical rub, you know, so if you needed to clean a wound out, betadine is great. Now you can get those little, I really love these. They're little sticks that have like, they're like a Q-tip, like a double-sided Q-tip with the betadine inside, and then you snap one side, and then it basically like fills up the end of the scrubber side of the Q-tip, and then you can scrub out a wound that way, and then you just toss it. So I use that. You could probably bring some Neosporin with you, some type of wound dressing, you know, so that's a very smart thing to do. So when you're traveling, your first aid kit is going to involve anything for any type of wound dressing, right? Because you trip, you biff it, whatever it is, you don't want to have to go find bandages. So small bandages, large bandages, have a really good size. I travel with the Coban. I travel with the scissors. I travel with the tweezers. I travel with, you know, a wound scrub. It's usually betadine, and then a wound dressing. So like a Neosporin or something like that. Then, okay, so that's wound department. Pain management, something or other, you know, you might travel with your acetaminophen, with your ibuprofen. I will travel with Christian dihydrate. I also like the cramp bark type stuff. So that gets into the GI system. So you're going to travel with stuff for diarrhea, for constipation. You're going to make sure the flora is right. Always travel with a probiotic, for the love. Like, just, yeah, because you're just going to a different place with different probiotic, or with different flora, right? So I travel with the bacillus strains. That's more for the loose stool. And then I travel with the like Ortho 100. So those are these puppies here. And luckily now this is a gummy, so I can get my kid to take it. So kind of a diarrhea-ish probiotic, constipation-ish probiotic. Now, the binders, right? So a Z binder or added activated charcoal. So if you get traveler's diarrhea, or if you get food poisoning, or something is, you know, causing that, you're going to want that binder, because you don't want diarrhea for too long, because what has to happen? An IV bag of fluids, and that's going to not be fun to have to go find when you're in a foreign country or a foreign land, right? Constipation. A lot of people get constipated when they travel. So we got the big guns, which is the Super Aloe 450. That's a cathartic laxative, will not fail you. So, but if you want to start out with just plain Jane magnesium, that'll work as well. So a lot of times, you know, if somebody in my little tribe doesn't have a bowel movement in one day, oh, you're getting magnesium, you know. So I don't let it go too long, you know. 2 days, that's kind of pushing it in my world. I know some people are more comfortable like that. They won't do something until like maybe the 3rd day. I don't wait. I mean, it's fine to take magnesium, and if it's loose, just don't take the magnesium. So you'd rather have like one loose bowel movement and get the bowels moving than have impaction starting, right? So the homeopathics that I travel with are homeopathic arnica for bruising and pain. And then I always travel with the homeopathics for the flu. Like, so if you get, you know, into kind of a situation where you're, you know, a gastritis, viral gastritis, there's that. Okay, I think that's all of it, right? Let me look at my little list. Wound care, GI care. Oh, allergic stuff. We mentioned that. So we want to, hey, Debbie, it's good to see you. I got all my buddies here. Anyway, so So allergic, yeah, I like homeopathic apis. We already mentioned the quercetin and the D-Hist. Benadryl, travel with some Benadryl. I hear a lot of stories of people who are traveling and had like a shellfish allergy happen. So maybe somebody doesn't eat lobster very often, or when they're traveling, they'll have some lobster. And yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've heard people's stories about all of a sudden they're turning red and a waiter runs over and gives them Benadryl and knows that they're having a reaction. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And that I have heard that story lots of times. So yeah, just kind of, if you think shellfish is kind of like that. Like you might be fine, but you don't eat it very often. And then you go out to someplace that has a lot of shellfish and you start eating it more and more. It like kind of crosses a threshold sometimes. And people will say too, like, hey, I didn't know I had a shellfish allergy and I was fine. And then all of a sudden I went on this cruise where we had a ton of shrimp and we had a ton of lobster. And then I developed it and I didn't really even realize I had one. So it can happen like that too. So just be aware, you know. Yeah, any other things that y'all can think of with traveling? That's the little list that I put together that kind of keeps me and my son, you know, up and at 'em. But I'm thinking those are probably the main categories. You might know your own health stuff too, and you're going to bring your own support for your own health, you know, situations. You know, so if somebody's struggling with an autoimmune disease or with arthritis or with a heart disease, I mean, you're always going to take your medications with you, right? But you want to kind of maybe add the next level care that you usually have. You don't want to have to go hunt down your prescriptions in another country is my point. So if you have some things that you've had to use in the United States for some reason, then, you know, I'm thinking, you know, you take that script with you, or you take that medication with you, or fill that script, take it with you. And if you don't use it, fine, you know? So I think that that's a wise thing to do. Remember, we want to keep things convenient so we can have fun. We want to keep out of an ER, you know, all of that good stuff. So, yeah, that's kind of what we do. I'm trying to think of anything else. But then just wear nice, good shoes because you get to go on adventures. And yeah, I think be courteous to each other and have fun and learn about things. That was fun for me when I was in Salt Lake. We went to the Olympic Park. And I think I did a couple Facebook Lives there. I can't remember if I've posted them or not, or if we've posted them or not. And we got to see the Canadian team practicing their what is it called? The snow jump, the long jump, you know, like, so they were doing their snow jumping. Is that what it's called? So you go out to the Olympic Park, and they're you know, it's under planning. It was the 2002 Olympics was in Salt Lake, and now the 2034 Olympics is going to be in Salt Lake. So they have the you know, the snow jump set up for that. It's the one where they go down that big hill and then they jump and it's really big and then they land. So they're practicing that. There's no snow there, but there's this like slick surface that's on these jumps. And it was really fun talking to the Canadian team. And so they were there, and I just walked up and I just started talking to them, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing, because there was 3 Canadians that were doing their jumps. And anyway, they were so polite and wonderful, and they told me about the history of the sport. And turns out, you know, it was kind of like a Norwegian sport, and it had to do with these soldiers who were stationed somewhere and got bored. So they developed this, they skied down a mountain and made a jump, and which was funny to me because my ancestors are Norwegian. I'm from a long line of very silly Norwegians, and so I could see my family doing that anyway. But so anyway, I was like, oh my gosh, that sounds so funny. And the Canadians were just really sweet. They, you know, they talked a ton about it, and I'm like, well, how do you like get the gumption to do that. And of course, like anything, you start smaller and then go from there. But they were talking about how they're practicing their landings to make sure that they're safe. It was just really fun. It was really, really great. And so, yeah, I love going, traveling to other places and, just learning from people and kicking up a conversation and all of that. So yeah, anyway, well, I guess that concludes today's Facebook Live. Next week we'll do something else. I don't know yet. I always have so many ideas in the hopper, so sometimes I just come up with one. But if you want me to talk about any health topic, just message us, and I'm happy to go over questions, or I'm happy to go over a topic that you're wondering about. So awesome. Oh, I gotta get back to work. So it was so awesome talking to you. Bye, Debbie. Bye, Charity. You guys have a good day today, and we'll catch up soon, okay? All right. Bye-bye.